Starting, and we're live. Hello, everybody. I'm Andy, or Señor Minibagel, or Brocialist, or whatever the I don't even fucking know anymore. Oh, I forgot to turn off my stream. I'm echoing in the background. All right. So, great start. So I am here with Alternative Facts, aka, do you still go by Spino or whatever? I don't know.
David Sheratt. There you go.
David Sheratt. Okay, I'm here with David Sheratt. And then also ERA.
Hi.
That one's easy. We don't have to go over like AKAs with that one. And yeah, we basically just were kind of bored and we're like, hey, we should get on a podcast and talk about shit. So here we are.
Here we are.
So yeah,
first topic.
First topic. We have this thing ERA sent us about in Denver. There's this event called Pridefest, which is like an LGBT event, right?
Yeah.
And they banned a local like LGBT / men's rights group, I think.
I mean, it was just a straight up men's rights group, but they have many nonprofits that aren't strictly LGBT based on their booths. They have like an atheist group. They have like all sorts of groups there.
All right, so it's kind of a all-comers type event.
Yeah, it's like focused like on gay rights primarily, but it's not, I guess, limited for the booths who apply to join.
Yeah, so it's a pretty open event, but they just basically said, yeah, no. Here's this article about it is so apparently there's this dude named Matt who was like, oh no, you tell us about it because you were like more involved with this.
Oh yeah, so like yeah, Matt's a friend of mine. He doesn't live in Colorado anymore. He actually moved recently, but he wanted to come to Pride Fest since, well, he would still be here. Yeah, he's a gay man. He's been part of our organization for a few months. He didn't go to Pride Fest last year because we did have a booth last year at Pride Fest with really no problem. It was only this year where they sent us a letter saying they wouldn't let us go back for multiple reasons, which kind of made us all disappointed because of all the positive interactions we had last year with the people at Pride Fest, including many LGBT people. Basically, they asked us if we were discriminating against people because they have like this a policy where you can't really discriminate against people, which it makes sense because this is Pride Fest, but we don't. So we sent a letter back saying we don't discriminate against people. They asked us if we thought trans women were real women, and because they said that a lot of MRAs were thought that trans women were just men. Hello? Yeah?
Yeah, quite a lot of MRAs are transphobic. I've had some experience with that.
Yeah, but like anyone prominent, like I've never heard like Paul Elam or Karen or not even like
say some. I've never heard them say anything sort of explicitly transphobic, but they said some they said some line crossing things in, to the best of my memory, but yeah.
Yeah, like let's not like fudge lines here. There is quite an overlap between like the MRM and this type of sort of like reactionary right-wing stuff. There's like a bit of an overlap, even if it's not like 50, like, you know, complete, you know, straight line. You know, there's certainly like some crossover, you know.
Yeah, I would say so, but I don't think it's like so prominent enough to sort of make that assumption.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't necessarily make that assumption about a specific group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like men's rights isn't really a specific school of thought, so there's no real, I guess, vetting process to be an MRA. But I would say, like as a whole, I like at least that transphobic to the point. Like some of them might be.
Well, but Rocky Mountain isn't, right?
Yeah, Rocky Mountain MRA, which is the group you were with, was not like that.
No, because I mean, nobody had a problem with me in it at all. So there's that, and like I was kind of amused. They would like accuse us of doing that. I mean, I know that a lot of groups get confused for being men's rights activists, and that's why there's like a larger association. Because I know Return of Kings and the like have made very transphobic comments, but they don't even call themselves MRAs.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
fuck Return of Kings.
So we sent them a letter, and we thought there would be no problem. Like we thought this was a pretty clear issue, but then they sent us a letter back, which was pretty just like they tried to do like a guilt by association to our group, and one of the reasons was that we showed the Red Pill documentary, and that's kind of how the group got together in 2016. Because there's this documentary, they hosted it in a theater in Denver, and a lot of people saw it. We all sent our emails and sort of formed this group. And the problem was that the Red Pill had Paul Elam in it, and like he said something outside of the documentary that was like offensive. So apparently that means our group sort of supports that, even though it wasn't in the documentary, even though documentary was sort of something we just got together with. It wasn't something we like agreed with 100% necessarily. And another thing is that the Facebook page shared an article from the Daily Caller, which wasn't like the article itself didn't have a problem, but the Daily Caller is known to be a pretty terrible website. But I don't think like we really knew exactly like all the articles on this website, and it does seem unfair that like you get banned for sharing this one article from a website.
I saw that in the article. It was talking about the Daily Caller, and so I found the article that was shared. It was called "To Fix Marriage, We Need to Fix Divorce," and I didn't really see anything too crazy in it. So
yeah.
I mean, but this is kind of a problem that like men's rights groups have had throughout time, is that like beyond generally kind of having some like manosphericness to it, there's like really nothing that unites it as a whole. You know?
There's loads of disparate groups. It's really scattered and disorganized. Even when it comes to on the ground stuff, in my experience. No one knows what they're doing.
Yeah, like you've got groups which talk about how like migration from Muslim countries is the worst thing ever, and then you have like groups from India which are saying like, no, that is completely wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's groups in India and Indian MRAs who said some really questionable things about marital rape, and it gets into this really, really big just mess. I guess this is why I don't really consider myself an MRA anymore, because it just ends up associating yourself with so much that it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see the effects of that, because a lot of people who probably were supportive of like men's rights and like 2 years ago don't really care anymore, because we have like other topic issues that are used to like sort of hone the lips better. So yeah, like men's rights is pretty much stagnant on YouTube. I don't really know any like prominent MRA who's like routinely making content except for Bane and that's kind of it. Bane.
Yeah, well, and I think the reason that is because the men's rights movement very heavily marketed to the reactionary right-wing movement, the right-wing sort of anti-feminism wave on YouTube from sort of like 2013 to 2017. But the problem is that movement, that wave changed from sort of anti-feminism to anti-social justice, and then it became the YouTube conversation became much more about racial issues, and the gender debate kind of died.
Yeah.
And became a lot more just generally political, and this has caused the men's rights movement just doesn't have the ability to market to anyone, and most of the reactionary right-wingers that they said would somehow solve men's rights stopped giving a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem that it had as well is that there were really two groups which composed the entirety of the movement. There was, these reactionary right-wingers who were probably roughly maybe a bit more than half, and then maybe a bit less than half. There were people like me or anyone else in this stream who were like definitely left-leaning, not like in the American sense of like, oh, you're a liberal, you vote Democrat, but like left-leaning, hard left.
Yeah.
And yeah, it comes up with this problem where you can't have under the same umbrella one group which says that, like minorities are fine and capitalism is not good, and then another group which says we need to gas the darkies XD,
I haven't really seen much of that in the MRA. I think like most of the like right wingers are more like either rank and file conservatives or like these ANCAP types. Like I haven't seen.
I have seen a comment from Karen Strawn about white genocide.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like let's be real. There's certainly at the very least there's some dog whistling to those types going on. Like that's.
Yeah.
Like Paul Elam, a guy who is talking about all these problems which are kind of at the same time dog whistling to two sides. You've got the stuff about that really got me into it, where you're talking about labor and you're talking about these like parental issues and all that, and you're talking about like depression and suicide and all these issues which more appeal to like the people who are like traditional values are harmful, and the lack of ownership of production is harming workers types. But then at the same time, he's going to turn around and, dog whistle to the other end when he talks about how, Trump is the greatest president in American history or something.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, and this is kind of the problem, is when it's men's rights rhetoric has never had a consistent set of values other than whatever rhetoric would just convince someone on men's issues.
Poo-poo the feminists. And poo-poo the feminists, that's it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Feminism bad, us good.
And that was really the issue, is that was what attracted a lot of the reactionary right to it in the first place, because they could just use it as a cudgel to beat feminism with, rather than actually make some measured criticisms of the issues.
Yeah. Even when I was like really deep into the whole movement, I always thought that this whole focus towards feminism was a bit unfair. And again, this was like coming from the perspective of me like fully ingrained into it when I was releasing YouTube videos twice a week. Even then I was like, this is a bit too hard. All these things you're talking about have been around for centuries. Circumcision, that's been around for almost, and in the Christian West, that's been around for a century or more. When did Kellogg start his bullshit? So I don't really think it's fair to blame feminists for that one, for example. And you can find more.
Yeah, I mean, like feminists didn't really create these issues. I would say they're not like necessarily making them better, and like in some cases they're making it worse, but it's like it kind of reeks of like cultural Marxism theory, It
depends on the feminists.
Everything
as well.
was perfect before these cultural Marxists like showed up and like ruined society, and it's like no, life was always be bad.
Yeah, I love the idea that everything was great until these leftists came along narrative. It's like, history was not a fun place to be. It was not an enjoyable place to live.
Jeez.
Yeah,
or
like,
my favorite one was the women in combat one, where most MRAs I knew openly pushed for women's involvement in the military and for all that, but then they would talk about it as if like conservatives are for it and women are against it and feminists are against it, whereas most of the rhetoric I've seen from, you know, the feminists, like especially from more leftist feminists as opposed to just like liberal feminists, is, you know, yes, women should be in the armed forces, and it's usually these cultural conservative types who are saying, no, I don't want that, you know?
yeah, and like outside of normies, outside of your average normal person, it was rare for someone who was a self-identified feminist to be against women being allowed in combat.
Yeah, like, yeah, and you would, and if you said that to someone, they'd come to you like with an article. They'll be like, well, here's an example of it. Yes, but that is a deviation. That's the reason why the article was so shocking probably upon release, was that, you know, nobody would expect this because it's subverting your expectations, you know?
Well, that's the thing I love about there's a certain number of like right-wing accounts on Twitter that just constantly post just article headlines, and that's their commentary. They just react to headlines of articles, and I'm like, okay, like even if all of these headlines are real, they're still not necessarily a representation of everyday life. There's a reason it's an article on a newspaper. There's not article on the newspaper, man walks across road. But man with one leg crosses road with his new prosthetic limb. That's something interesting.
Yeah, that's
There's
like
a reason.
a fluff piece, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like something, man crosses road to go shoot up a school on the other side is, you know, headline news. But that doesn't happen every day, you know, unless you live where I live, in which case it happens like every month, so.
America.
School shooting jokes, very classic. But yeah, like it is I don't know, it's just yeah, I will admit that there are some like feminist types out there who are just purely normie types where their idea of feminism is someone told them like, oh, it's women good, you know?
Yeah.
And so they think, okay, women should not be in the military because that would mean women dying, which would mean women bad. But I don't think that that's the majority of their ideological framework. You know, I don't think that most people would fall under that.
There's like those kinds of people don't really do anything.
Yeah, those are the type of people who are, you know,
they're not actually politically involved. They're just, you know, well, what was it they call what the other MRAs call it, the coffee shop feminist. Yeah. If anything, they go to a coffee shop and talk about it, but not even that generally.
Not even that usually. Yeah. I know some people like that where they're like, oh yeah, I'm totally into like feminism and minority rights, bro. But then like if you actually ask them like what they think about issues which would normally be like very controversial issues that would get someone riled up, they're just like, I don't know. You know, they just don't really know anything, yeah.
Yeah, they don't know anything about like current day stories that
yeah, and you know what? That's cool. Not politics are depressing. It's not for everyone, you know. But
yeah, like, of course, but
you can't link me an article of someone like that and be like, "This represents the majority of blank's opinion," you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's pathetic.
Yeah. Oh, like it's just. I mean, this isn't new though. This has been a problem that MRAs have had throughout ever. You know?
Yeah, like I was part of it in 2011, and like during that time, there was like this infestation of like ANCAPs and right wingers who just wanted to sort of take like the movement in their direction. Like you remember Bernard Chapin, right?
Bernard Chapin, and Rocking Mystery. They were
especially actually like Paul Elam actually like drove them out. So like At least there's something good he did.
Yeah, when you're not when you're too right wing for Paul Elam.
Yeah, the funny thing is though is that kind of like the libertarian side of the internet is kind of taking a hit as well.
Well, that's also true. There's been I mean, a couple months ago, there was this wave of female libertarian, a quote unquote libertarian YouTube women who were suddenly like, I'm not a civic nationalist. No, I'm an ethno nationalist now.
Yeah.
And it was so obvious. I clocked half of them like before they even showed up, before they'd even started started talking about ethnic like white identity issues. But yeah,
Southern did like
Southern did
she was probably like the most prominent example, but yeah, it kind of sucks that she actually was an MRA, so it's like kind of like
I don't think Southern never explicitly identified as an MRA.
I didn't know that she ever crossed like any line of calling herself that. Yeah.
No, I don't. She never
rescue boats.
Yeah, she's just
like she went
throwing refugees, throwing flares at fucking at rescue boats. You know, attacking Doctors Without Borders to trigger the libs.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said that she supports like ethnic nationalism, and she went to this South African city that was like mostly white people, and said that like it was proof that.
No! It was a continuation of apartheid, and it was only white people. Like it was like black people were banned from that part of it. It was Orania, the town's called. It's tiny. It's smaller than my town. So.
Can you spell out that name?
Orania, if I recall correctly.
Let's see if it should show up eventually.
It's something that alt-righters have been talking about very recently.
Yeah, perfect spelling. Perfect spelling.
Wow, the population
exactly right.
192. Wow, or 1,500, but yeah, that's tiny.
Jeez, yeah, that's small.
Yeah,
and yet 97. Oh no, there's a whole 2.8% of black or mixed black there. So clearly they're not doing a good job of kicking everyone out.
Yeah,
that feeling when your ethno state isn't even that feeling when even your continuation of apartheid isn't all white people. That's 1 in 50 people. You couldn't even have a street without a black person.
But anyhow, do you want to finish this article?
Is there anything more in it that like?
I guess like one notable thing was that like the head of the GLBT center said they had like important constituencies that they had to please, which
constituents that they had to please. That's
the Return of Kings is. Yeah, I see what you mean. Return of Kings calling them MRAs is kind of unfair. Well, definitely unfair. Rushvi is he's like what was the name of that guy? Barney from How I Met Your Mother? On those pages made by Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, except
he's just like that guy, but like rapier. You know? Like, I don't think he's really interested in any like social movements or anything, but
he is. He's interested in I don't know, trying to make women more paranoid about men, because that means they're more scared of men, and like I guess in his idea it means that there's more lonely, depressed men that will continue to buy his books and read his crappy articles.
He's like becoming irrelevant right now. Like nobody knows about him.
That's not explicit, obviously, but yeah, that I mean, what he seems to be doing right now is whining about like this 21-year-old like lefty girl who infiltrated like the alt-right like a year ago. She found she just like was chatting in the Discord servers and everything. Got like the docs of a couple of them. One of them was in the National Guard or something. Put this out and then like came out of the alt-right, and they've just been going after her since. She's Karma Reynoldson. She's fucking hilarious because the alt-right gets so angry at her, and they just throw everything they can at her. It's so fucking funny.
Oh jeez. Even the Southern Poverty Law Center, I guess they kind of agreed with what I said, where they say we do not consider all men's rights groups to be hate groups, where it's, you know, it's more divided, where it's just a movement with so much,
that's true.
Such a divide in its mindset, where you've got half the people who are actually like women suck, and then you've got half the people who are like, no, I just don't like circumcision, you know?
Yeah, I don't really like the SPLC, but they like haven't like claimed that like all MRA groups were like hate groups, which I mean a lot of people don't pay attention to. They're like, hey look, the SPLC says you're all hate groups, and it's just so annoying that, and I think it can cause some problems, because we actually got a few threats from people on Facebook. It's not really like, it wasn't directed, like they didn't say it to us, they were just posting on this page, but they said some pretty nasty things. Like one of them said that they should burn the tent down. We went to People's Fair because we were rejected at Pridefest, but somebody noticed us. They like took pictures of us and posted it on Facebook. They said, like one person said that they should throw a Molotov cocktail at us, and
Jesus Christ.
Oh, you're famous. You're mentioned at the end of this article.
Yeah, I'm very. It was like a little before that as well. Like I said that I hope we can like go back next year, because Pridefest was much better than People's Fair. People's Fair was much more normie than Pridefest, I guess. Like less people were engaged with us, less people showed up overall. So like I think going to Pridefest would be much more beneficial, but like I'm not sure we're like able to go back, especially like after we sort of made this public. I don't know if like they'll like us anymore.
Yeah, this is another thing, is that one person says that they're a misogynist terrorist group with ties with white supremacists. And
unfortunately, ties with white supremacists isn't entirely unfair.
Yeah, that's the problem with like talking about the men's rights as a whole, is that whenever people make claims like that, you can't really call them wrong or right, because like
it's a yes and no situation.
They undeniably exist, you know, like they're out there, but like Rocky Mountain, I don't know, they seem pretty chill.
Yeah, we're not like an anti-feminist group. We actually we like talked about it like early on. We say we don't really want to be negative. We just want to be like positive. So like we even have like some feminists in our group. They aren't like prominent, like they aren't like prominent members, but they're like, we let them in.
Yeah, this is I mean the comments seem to be generally in your guys' favor, at least.
Yeah, because I mean probably some of them are people from our group, but we posted this article on Reddit and got mixed reviews from people. Like there's the Denver Reddit subreddit, so I posted it on, or somebody posted it on. I posted it on the Rainbow subreddit. So part of me thinks that like it's good we got some attention from this, but we need like most of our attention should be locally based, since we are a local movement. But we did get so last weekend we had this interview from this Korean guy who's making this Korean mini series, and they basically talked about this issue, and they interviewed us separately and about like men's issues and what got us into men's rights.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's going to air in Korea on July 19th.
Man, maybe I should fly to Pyongyang and see it.
Yeah.
No, I assume it's the other Korea, but
yeah, this
sounds interesting.
Because they were talking about how they have like a feminist movement there that's kind of mostly based on American feminism, like BuzzFeed types.
Oh, geez, BuzzFeed has to be the most normie website in the history of the world.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. And they want to talk to other people. They want to talk to Cassie J, but they couldn't really contact her because, I mean, she's getting married. So.
Oh, how sweet.
No, it's not. It's a trap. I'm just kidding.
It's a trap.
Yeah, and they tried talking to National Coalition for Men, which is like a pretty decent men's rights group, I'd have to say. I haven't like studied them, but they look like they have pretty decent articles.
All right, on to David's story about a black man in Pennsylvania being charged with a hate crime for calling cops Gestapo.